From ghoulies and ghosties and long-legged beasties and things that go bump in the night. Good Lord, deliver us. This is an old Scottish saying. I'm sure a lot of people in my audience are familiar with the part that says things that go bump in the night. Well, what if I told you there's a very, very simple answer to this old Scottish saying that comes in the form of a lyric of an old country song that I'm sure also a lot of you have heard. Nothing makes a sound in the night like the wind does. But you ain't afraid if you're washed in the blood like I was, God rest his soul, Don Williams. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are like, cool story, Mucky. What does this have to do with anything and why are we talking about it? Well, in this video, it's going to be a two-part video. We're going to talk about what the real threat to America is right now, when you boil it right down to the base level, and what the solution is. Now, part one of this video, I can share with you guys freely here on YouTube. But the second part, the most important part, unfortunately, the answer is something people are just not ready to hear yet. And I'm going to have to put it over at the base level over at Patreon. Because if I shared it here, if I shared that truth here to everybody, there would be all sorts of people reporting me and getting the channel taken down, and that's why we have the Patreon channel. God bless all of you that have been there. I very much appreciate it. There's 4 levels, 2, 5, 10, and 15. This next video we're going to do today is going to be for everybody. It's going to be for every paying level over there. Now, I'd love to have you over there, $2 a month. If you don't agree, if you go over there, you sign up, and you're like, you know what, I totally disagree. You're completely full of it, Mucky. You can go right in and say, I want a refund, get your money right back. Absolutely no questions asked whatsoever. Now, love to have you over there. Let's get right to the meat of today's video. Ladies, I'd like to ask a question. Ever had that situation? You're getting ready to go to bed. Maybe you're tooling around the kitchen or something, and you hear something outside, that little strange noise that you can't quite identify. Or maybe it wakes you up in the middle of the night and you look over and bump the person next to you and say, hey, I heard something. Can you go check? And he says it's just probably an animal. And no, seriously, I think it's something that we need to check out. I think there might be somebody out there. Ladies, have you ever had that situation where you thought the worst, you heard a bump in the night? Now, 99 times out of 100, it's this or it's this, isn't it? How many times has your guy come back and said, yeah, it was a trash panda? How many of you out there have a dog that has it's the trash panda woof, or it's the something else woof? How many of you have a dog that you can tell the difference between them just woofing at a raccoon digging in the trash or them being seriously woken up by something much, much more threatening? Now, here in America, at least down here in Florida that I can speak of, nothing quite says go away like just grabbing the old 12 gauge and going down there and racking it. That will usually scare away both trash pandas and possums and all sorts of critters in the night, but it'll also scare away anything that might be more serious. But what don't we do? What don't we do? You see, a lot of guys have weapons like this also. What we don't do is we don't go outside and grab a chair and find a firing position and then listen for noise. And then every time we hear a noise, we pepper off 2 or 3 rounds in that direction. How many of you guys would do that in a neighborhood? Of course you wouldn't. Most guys wouldn't even do that out in the country. Kind of a silly overreaction. Florida Marquis, is this an anti-gun video? No, it's absolutely not. It is absolutely not an anti-gun video. You see, there's a difference. There's a difference between the way that you should react to things. In the middle of the night, 99 times out of 100, when you hear something go bump or thunk or thump, it's going to be something harmless most of the time. But you're always prepared, aren't you? You're always prepared. Now, why is that the case? Why is that the case? It's very simple. Civilization. You see, here in America, especially here in Florida, and where I live, and I'm going to use my little town here as an example, we live in neighborhoods. And over here, we have this massive, huge forest, national forest over here. And then we got this park over here. And this little area that I live in, all these little neighborhoods and streets, got all sorts of little water canals running through them and little stands of trees here and there and everywhere. And after dark, after things kind of quiet down, there's fewer cars on the road, it gets quiet. Maybe you might hear the whisper of people watering their lawns, the sprinklers going off. That's the cue. That's the cue for all the little critters to come out of all their little hiding spots and go start looking for their nightly snackos. That's what they do. Some of them make the transit from the park over here to over here. Now, this isn't something where we're going to always, make fun of our better half and say, she's just, over worried about every little thing. You got to check. Of course you have to check. It's just what people do. But 99 times out of 100, there's no problem. Why? Because we live in a civilized society. A society that was created by Western civilization. Whether you like Western civilization or you want to criticize European civilization, this is why. We have homes, and the vast majority of these homes all have, these days, this thing called Ring camera doorbells, and everything's all being watched. In fact, I would even make the allegation that these days a lot of women could just go pick up their phone off the nightstand and go check the Ring camera and see if it is a trash panda tearing things up, or a possum or something, or a cat. These days, it's really quite often a lot of stray cats. They wouldn't even have to have their better half go grab the handgun out of the drawer or go get the shotgun out of the closet. They wouldn't have to do that. Because we have civilization. Now, if you only go a little bit farther to the west of where I live, there's a place out here referred to as the Mondex, Daytona North. Not very far away, just a hop, skip, and a jump. Out here, if you heard something go bump in the night, yeah, probably could be a raccoon, probably could be a possum. But out here, this is a much more dangerous area. Florida Marquis, it looks much nicer. Florida Marquis, look at all of the green. Look at all of the forest. This little area out here is populated by people that have mostly forfeited their right to live in civilized society. A lot of modular homes out here, a lot of mobile homes here. And the reason they have to live out here is because they've been convicted of something. And they can't live within certain areas of schools. And for some reason, they can't get financing and they can't get this, that, and the other. I'm not going to get much farther into it than that. But everybody has this area. If you had a daughter and say she had a friend and they wanted to go get their first place out here, there's a lot of cheap places out here, but you would never want your two, teenage or 20-something old daughters together living alone out here in Daytona north of the Mondex. It's much too dangerous. Now, when you look at it, you wouldn't think there'd be much of a difference, but there is. Here, we have people who have behaved in accordance with the values of Western civilization. Therefore, we have the privilege of living someplace that's very quiet, very peaceful, very safe. A lot of people have their doors open and they're not worried one bit in the night of anything more than perhaps waking up to their trash strewn all over the driveway. That's about as bad as it gets in Palm Coast. But just a hop, skip, and a jump over here. This is Breaking Bad land out here. I'll let you guys figure that out. It's Breaking Bad land. Yeah, look at all the trees and all the, gosh, you're right by this beautiful, Bull Creek campground and Crescent Lake, and gosh, it's so wonderful. Not quite so much. But the difference, Western civilization, people who decided they don't like the rules that Western civilization provides. Therefore, they live out here. See, that's the reality. That is the reality. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This triptych succinctly defines the attractiveness and superiority of Western civilization. And Western civilization is based in the nuclear European family. Period. This is how it starts. Of course, you go check, and honey, it was just a raccoon. It was just a possum. I cleaned up the trash, washed my hands, put everything away. Now let's go to bed. This same scene plays itself out tens, if not hundreds of thousands of times every single night all across the country. And what I've just shown here, I'm sure everybody has their version of that where they live. Now, I would like to ask a question, though. And I'm flipping through here to the scenes from the Patreon version here. Patriot Nurse on her channel up in Tennessee has talked about going to bed with one of these weapons right next to her every night. I don't know very many guys that sleep with an AR-15. I don't know very many guys that keep an AR-15 right by the bed. Now that she feels the need to, God bless her right to have that be the case. Not questioning the right. What I'm asking is why does she feel so terrified in Tennessee of what's going bump in the night that she needs this weapon? And she feels like this will be the proper choice of the weapon. Remember, we already established that down here, if we hear something go bump in the night and we can't identify it, we're not going to take up a firing position with an AR-15, and any place in any direction out there in the neighborhood that we hear a noise we can't identify, that we're going to start peppering off rounds. We're not going to do that. If we can't identify it and we keep hearing it, we walk around and we don't know what it is, eventually we'll call the authorities. But usually this will get the job done. A couple of good woofs, properly from a German Shepherd or some other, little furry critter, will also get the job done. You'd have to be pretty silly in Florida. I'll be very honest these days. In at least where I live, you'd have to be pretty silly, pretty low IQ to try this. This is taking your life in your hands down here. Because, we just don't have any, we have sheriffs that just don't care. At night, we have sheriffs that just do not give a crap how homeowners decide to protect their property. They don't care. They'll just call, cleanup for whatever's done later, take a very succinct report and say, we'll see you in the morning. Go to bed. That's Florida. And strangely enough, you do see a lot of, and this is another video for another day, the age separation. So I know a lot of ladies don't like that, but that's very, very, very common down here. So anyway, I will leave it there. Part two. If you'd like to hear part 2, we're going to put that up right now over Patreon. Love to have you over there. Believe me, the solution to this problem, the answer to the issue and why it is such, we're going to get into. And I think a lot of you probably are already knowing what I'm talking about, and you know why I can't talk about it here on YouTube. So I will leave it there. Join us Patreon. Love to have you. Fully refundable first 90 days. Hundreds of videos going back many, many, many years. God bless. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.